Workshop. Tuesday, September 2nd. Roll call.
Dale Wilson.
Here.
Kurt Offenbacher.
Here.
Brian Parker.
Here.
Charles Kimball.
Here. And staff.
Kyle Roden.
Wendy McKay.
Rob Courier.
Sarah Klein. Alicia Burgess.
Good. Now introductions. Personnel policy read.
All right, get right to it here.
We'll make it quick too.
Ooh.
Hey, so, as you might remember, we did a policy update earlier this year. Let's see. And that went into effect on May 1st. And I just kind of wanted a real quick recap. We did that back a mid-year update because there were some changes to protected leave that the state of Oregon made. So we needed an update mid-year to stay compliant. Now it's same year, but we're doing another update, which is kind of unusual for us. But in this case, we're doing it because we're changing some in-house policies specific to remote work and the use of Gen AI tools. So those are the reasons why we're doing a change right now. Regarding remote work, just a quick recap, we started offering this in 2020. We found that employees can successfully manage their workload and it helps with the work-life balance. But over time, as we've been able to evaluate this, we have determined that there's some things that go missing when you're not all in the office. You don't have that face-to-face interaction as much, and we kind of are missing out on that. And we feel it's an important component to maintaining a really strong, united team. So we're looking to create more opportunities for those face-to-face interactions and to, again, just help maintain a strong team. So with that, we are proposing changing our policy language for remote work specifically. Right now, it says that they can work up to half of their schedule with a minimum of 2 days in the office. We are looking at reducing that in order to increase more time in the office. What that looks like in the policy, if you're looking at that red line version, we're actually proposing removing the entire remote work section and putting the language into the section that's called work schedules. So we're kind of combining it all into one section. And we're changing the language so it says that they can work up to 10 hours per week. So we're reducing it down to 10.
So on that 10 hours, is that consecutive 10 or can you take 2 hours Monday, 2 hours Tuesday?
Yes, however they want to use it. We wanted to emphasize the flexibility of our schedules. So we have some employees that like to come in a little later because they have to drop kids off. So like, so it's 10 hours total across the week.
And because we are reducing it, that's one of the things that Kyle just mentioned, that we're trying to also in that policy language emphasize where we have flexibility in scheduling. So that kind of.
So this 10 hours is actually, it's not really remote work. It's 10 hours a week. You get to do whatever you want.
Well, it could be that you want to, it really is for remote work. So specifically, if you wanted to work a couple hours before your kids get up and go to school, you could do that from home and then leave earlier that. So there's ways that you can make it fit your lifestyle.
So the expectation is people are doing, if they take 2 hours on Monday or Tuesday, you expect them to be working.
Yes.
Whether
working,
it's at 3 a.m, whatever, but in that, and then get 2 hours to take care of whatever they need to do.
Any remote work is it should be work. It's equivalent to what you would do here in the office without the face-to-face.
And there's no clarification of what you did at remote work versus when you were here.
No, that's up to the supervisor, to make sure that they're staying on top of the work that's being produced. So I think we've done okay with that with the halftime, but this will give us a little more, I think, opportunity to stay on top of what's going on. That helps them.
So in addition to emphasizing the flexibility within the schedules, mentioning that it's going down to 10 hours per week, there were a couple oddball pieces within the current remote work sections that refer to in-home work injuries, or I should say at-home work injuries, and how to protect or what the requirements are for protecting EPUD computers. Those don't really fit into the work schedule section, so we moved that language to the more appropriate section, so workers' comp and protecting confidential information and computer use and email expectation section. So we kind of moved a couple things around, but kept the language. And I should mention this has been reviewed by our attorney make sure that she's still comfortable with how we're raising them as
Can
well.
can you give me an example of an in-home work injury?
Well, if with people remote working, so this is already in our policy right now, if we had somebody get injured on the job, but the job was at home at that time, it's still a workers' comp related injury. So let's say somebody's at home and their chair breaks while they're working, all of a sudden they fall back and hurt their wrist. That's still a workers' comp. That's still a work related injury. So we just need to provide a little bit of clarification on, hey, if you do get injured on the job and it just happens to be at home, it still falls under workers' comp. And that's essentially all the language is.
Did that do anything to our workers' comp?
It hasn't before, no.
So just, it's one of those things where we added that in per the attorney's recommendation years ago, just to kind of cover us to make sure that people understand.
Does seem a little odd if you don't control the environment, right, where people work at home.
Yeah, I think it's pretty standard throughout the industry. I mean, everybody's had to adjust to this over the last many years. That's kind of one of the oddities that gets extended if you're doing work with a company, regardless of location. That's something that's going to be covered by our workers' comps.
Same
Yeah,
as
be
if
like-
you're in the field.
If we were going to a conference and I fall down,
Yep,
same thing.
Yeah.
Too bad, I'm out.
Well, it's just a matter of
I've
time,
got an empty seat on the way home.
matter of time till that happens.
okay. Oh,
Well, I mean, we're gonna pay, so somebody at home and working or not working falls, we're essentially paying their insurance or paying workers.
Yeah, either way we pay.
Yeah,
Workers' comp.
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, that's a point though, that we don't control their environment.
yeah, same
It's
with if
different.
they're working out in the field, if they're at a conference, there's just circumstances where they're not gonna, they're still working, but they might not be physically here in the office, so. Okay, I'll keep us going. So the other one that we want to talk about is the use of Gen AI tools. Right now, we don't have a policy on this at all. And so, the question is, do we need one? The reason why we feel like we should add something on there or into the policy about this is there's a lot of use of Gen AI tools right now that's happening in the work environment, but we have employees here who are wanting to use it or are using it. And there's a lot of tools that are available to use. So it's one of those things where we feel like this would be a good time to put some parameters in place to ensure that we're still protecting our information, our data, all of our documentation. So nobody accidentally does something out, that could put us in a compromising situation. We have worked with our attorney on this as well to make sure we have some solid language. And the way that we're presenting this right now is based on what we know right now and based on the recommendations, as this evolves, we might end up modifying this, tightening it up, adding some things, but for right now, we're adding basically a list of requirements that they want to make sure employees follow if they're going to use one of these tools. It's basic things like making sure they don't enter confidential employee, customer, password, or security information into the tool, making sure that they let their manager or supervisor know they're using it, making sure whatever comes out of that tool is actually accurate, appropriate, it's not biased, making sure that it doesn't violate any policies, making sure that they don't integrate it with any of our software without getting permission first, that they don't present it as their own work, right? Just acknowledge that I utilized this tool to produce this work product. And then making sure that they're still required to have full ownership and responsibility for their work product. So even if they use this tool to produce this work, they're responsible for what the outcome is with that work, the quality of that work, the accuracy of that work. And that they still need to be able to do critical thinking and problem solving skills, utilize those at all times. So even if this tool makes you super efficient and helps with getting these work products put out there, that's great. But if that tool is not in place, you still need to be able to produce the same quality of work or produce the work that meets expectations.
October 2nd, there's a 3-part webinar that NWPPA is putting out.
About AI.
AI and utility professional touches on a lot of the stuff that you read about it.
Well,
Yeah.
somebody on that.
It's a webinar.
Yeah.
Free series.
And this gets a lot of, I really do think it's a game changer for all employers out there. Potential to save a lot of time, but also the potential drawbacks of not knowing exactly where things are coming from, whether they're in the type of materials you can trust, all that stuff comes into the forefront right now.
Looks to me like it'd be very easy to accidentally let information that's internal get loose.
That's a big problem, yeah. So PPC's had some real
This
issues
thing's
with that.
basically grabs everything it can find from what I understand and
Make
make
use
use
about
of
it,
it.
you know, PPC,
Yeah.
they've talked about this, so I'll use them as an example. They send out these 300-page packets of all kinds of information. It'd be real tempting to throw that on one of these tools and say, give me the 5 bullet points. I need to know
Exactly
about it.
right.
Meanwhile,
That's a
now it's
perfect
out there in the ether and you got all that private information.
I think we'd be fools to think that isn't gonna happen.
Yeah,
Or has already happened.
Yeah.
I think it probably did, that's why they made such a fuss about it, so.
It's spooky that last, continue to use critical thinking and problem solving skills.
Yeah, right.
Really, I mean.
That's these young people, I don't know how they're
There's a
interested.
guy on the news, a child psychologist,
Yeah.
that's in schools,
Mhm.
these little kids. If they can just use Chat GTP or something, they're not gonna learn.
They're
It's-
already using it.
It is
I know,
one
but they're
thing.
not
My kid
gonna
is doing it
learn.
right now.
It's one thing for people that have gone through without this stuff and figured out how to put an essay together and how to solve it. That's one thing. Now you can use it to save a ton of time. That's great, because you would have kind of got there anyway, but now it's just gonna save you time. If you don't know how to do that at the beginning, though, I agree, it's a big problem.
I started calling it RI, replacement intelligence.
That's a good
It's kind of scary.
I'm
The other
afraid,
thing,
I'm all too served and I'm afraid it's
there's
right.
been a number of studies. the
Just
last
like
couple of
math
years.
skills when electronic calculators came out when I was a kid, you know?
Yeah, it changes. They have shown even employment starting to be affected by this now. A lot of these entry level jobs
yeah.
are just not being hired.
I heard 15 to 25% of entry level jobs are going.
That's gonna have an impact on us at some point. All this is new, but we're gonna try to get some language to capture those, the basic.
Afraid it's not gonna make better human beings in the long run.
And again, we just feel like this is a good time to put some parameters in place now, but also go into it knowing, you flash forward 6 months, a year from now, we might want to modify it depending on how everything evolves. So just keeping that in mind. The other thing I just wanted to call out really quick too is that there's multiple tools that are available to use. And so our IT department is looking into all of those to determine, do we want everybody to just pick whatever one they want, or do we want to limit it to 1 or 2 tools? So that is something that we are looking into now. And again, that ties into, depending on the decision of that might need another update to put that as a requirement.
So does he subscribe to the enhanced?
We have a couple trials. I have Copilot paid version, and Wendy has ChatGPT. I think we're trying it out to see how it works.
I don't know anything about this directly, but when you propose this thing does something, by definition, you're giving it information of some sort to tell it what to do.
Mhm.
So that in itself is releasing
A
information.
little bit. I mean, some of it's just publicly available, so you just say, tell me what's
Yeah,
going on in the utility sector. Others.
That's my point, is it wouldn't take much to make an inadvertent mistake
Yeah.
in some fashion.
Not at all.
I would think supervisors and their subordinates ought to be able to, talk about this at least weekly.
Yeah,
To discuss what's going on, who's doing what, why they're doing it, then the group needs to decide whether it's a good idea or not.
yeah.
I'm not saying it's all wrong, but
Yeah,
once it's the horse is out of the barn, it's too late.
Yeah, I'm hoping this policy change will allow us to have that conversation. Just say, look, we're gonna be kind of watching what's going on here, and making sure that we have a good grasp of.
How long until it's listening to everything in every board meeting and it takes all that information, and I'm not
Well,
kidding.
we could turn it on right now with Zoom. They'll do that. They'll transcribe the whole meeting, give you a summary.
But that's my point.
Yeah.
How do we know some member of the public doesn't come in here doing that? We don't know it.
It's all possible.
Or you take the transcript off the web, there's
Yeah.
no such thing as a secret anymore.
No,
Yeah, to me, it still takes the human has to look, see, does it look reasonable?
Yeah.
Does the crowd, the information that you get, is that a reasonable answer?
that seems to be where the jobs will be in the future, is checking what you're getting back, being the person who can actually make that judgment call. At least until the technology gets better. I don't know, maybe eventually that doesn't need to happen.
So it doesn't allow us to change what it thinks.
Yeah, that's right. It's a brave new world, but we're gonna try to at least stay on top of it as best we can. Everyone's grapple.
so that would be a new addition to the policy. And then as far as next steps, we'll bring in a resolution to adopt the changes at the September 16th board meeting, and then these changes would go into effect on October 1st.
The employees about the remote work, that's been communicated to them quite a long time ago. We, beginning of the year, said we're gonna take a look at this, and
I didn't realize we were still doing that.
yeah, I mean,
How did that conversation go?
it was okay. I mean, what I'll say about remote work is there aren't many that leverage it to the full extent. There's a handful, but those that do really appreciate it. And it's looking like a bit of a takeaway, so we're working through that with those folks, but I think it's really gonna be worth it, just given the additional cultural cohesion that we'll have by having people here more.
There's a lot of collaboration that needs to go on to keep everybody on their
Yeah.
toes.
There were a lot of reasons for it, but I think people understand that. It's just they kind of got used to it, so that takes some adjustment.
And I think it still helps, by having that, even a reduced number, still offering it in combination with the flexibility we can provide with schedules. Still helps on the recruitment and retention side of things as well, so it's kind of a good compromise there that works well for everybody.
I could see where several jobs would be good to be at home all week.
Yeah, I mean, think about IT jobs or PR.
PR's a big one.
Folks that have to do a lot of writing. It's pretty nice to have a quiet place you can do.
Yeah, I'll do that. You wanna do
Takes 5 minutes, yeah. All right, well, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll bring that back in September. Okay, one more to go. I'll have Sarah come up for this one. So, I said this in my notes, but there is a discussion to be had here. Sarah will go through the proposed changes. We got some conflicting policy language between our new purchasing policy and board policy. And if you're just reading this fresh, you might look at this as a bit of a kind of pullback from, well, we're in the, process of bidding these things out every so often, and we're gonna get rid of that language. What I'd like to figure out is how can we kind of capture all of those things that we want to bid out in some format that the board can see on a regular basis, but doesn't kind of hit all these different policies. Not really sure how to track it all. So it's a little bit of reorganization, but I also want to make the point that we're not trying to back away from bidding stuff out. We think that's really important. Just would like this to kind of be a little more cohesive. So want to talk about that. As Sarah will go through this, but maybe looking for feedback in terms of how you'd like that to play out, what your comfort level is to give us that instruction. All right.
Thank you. So, yeah, so there's two potential board policy changes. The first one is related to insurance, as Kyle mentioned. So the current language in the board policy is, interesting. Especially with, for example, our liability insurance, we go through special districts. It's not something we've been in the habit of bidding out. So that's been interesting looking at these, the board policy and purchasing policy together. With special districts being available to us, it's a pretty good gig.
Yeah, WHA is kind of a go-between there, so we assume if there was something better, they would tell us, but
We'd like to formalize
Yeah.
that maybe a little bit. There are certain policies we do regularly go out for bid on. So for example, our standalone cyber insurance coverage. I think we put that in place. Probably something like that. And we have bid that out every single year since we have put that out. Maybe that's too much. But we did actually change insurance carriers based on the results of that process for 2025. The other years we hadn't made a change. So it's kind of just one of those things. So maybe we agreed to do that every 3 years or something similar. So in an effort to kind of at least mirror policy, board policy to purchasing policy, instead of saying we're gonna put things out for bid every 3 years, we're suggesting changing the board policy language to say that all insurance policies will be procured in accordance with Emerald's purchasing policy. Now, as Kyle mentioned, our practices may be more stringent than what the purchasing policy allows. The purchasing policy is allows the general manager quite a bit of leeway to directly appoint or purchase insurance products. But again, the cyber is a really good example of one that we have put out for bid every single year as a standalone policy. Whereas our liability insurance or workers' compensation insurance through SAFE, it might not make as much sense to bid those out. There might be only one game in town, or we might already know the best game in town. So to kind of make this hopefully a little bit more comfortable, You know, we would continue some of the practices we've already put into place, including very closely with our broker, who is currently WHA. We would continue to have WHA come in and speak with the board. We've been doing that every year for the last few years. And I think most of the other publics do that as well with WHA. We would also, of course, let the board know about any major changes. The cyber, again, is a good example of that. We came to the board and said we wanted to put this extra policy in place, asked for permission, did a budget amendment, and got that in place. And then also, of course, pricing changes are always reflected in the annual budget. We can have more diligence about pointing pricing changes out if that would help the board get more comfortable with this potential policy change. So the second one is related to our audit services. The current board policy says that we will go out for a bidding process every 6 years. I think we had internally kind of interpreted that as we will make sure we have a concurring partner change every 6 years, which is included in the language, but that bidding part per the purchasing policy is actually not required to comply with Oregon minimum standards. So once again, the proposal is to have that language refer back to the purchasing policy and say that audit services will be procured following the purchasing policy guidelines. So audit services fall under the personal services contracts, which do allow the general manager to do a direct appointment. We would propose keeping the language to have a changing concurring partner every 6 years. That has been a really good practice. The concurring partner is the one that comes in cold and reviews our audit work on paper. They never meet us. They don't work directly with us at all. So they're getting a really unbiased viewpoint. They can't say, "Ooh, you know, I think Kyle's really smart, so they probably have really good processes in place." This person knows nothing about us other than what they see on the pieces of paper and our work papers. So again, we think it's good to keep that language, but make the procurement piece consistent with our purchasing policy. Of note, I don't know if you will have heard that Moss Adams has merged with Baker Tilly, another audit firm. So that's pretty big news. They don't expect there to be too many changes in our experience with our audit this upcoming year. But I will be interested to see what kind of technology comes into play as they get further into this merger. Potentially what access we have to additional personnel on the staff, and just to see what additional best practices they can adopt by merging together. So not opposed to, you know, taking that out for bid and considering a different external auditor should the board wish that. But it'll be interesting also to see what Moss can do with Baker Tilly.
Is the other firm larger than Moss Adams?
I think they were, aren't they?
I've never heard of them. No,
They-
that doesn't mean anything.
They're taking their name, aren't they?
They are taking the Baker Tilly name, yes. So I'm not sure if that says anything. I don't know the answer to that question for sure.
Retire.
Yeah,
I would have went with Baker, Moss, Tilly.
A little longer.
sure, why not?
Yeah.
Baker Tilly sounds like a law.
It
Sounds like a law
It
firm.
was like a law firm.
Dewey, Cheatham and Howe. But it's a law.
Moss does have a really good utility footprint in the Pacific Northwest, so they're pretty well regarded up here. So it'll be interesting merger to see what their utility presence is nationwide and see how that goes. Okay, so next steps, we'll plan on bringing a resolution back at the next board meeting. And we can modify those based on any feedback you might have.
So I am curious if the board is interested in this idea that we would have a schedule to bid certain things out. I feel like that's important one way or the other, and whether we put that in policy or not is kind of an open question, but I'd be open to maybe making an appendix, say in our purchasing policy that just has a list of some of the more common services that we purchase and in a regular schedule that we follow, something like that.
Been any problems before now, the way it is?
No, I mean, it's kind of like you don't know what you're missing. If you don't bid something out, you're probably not sharpening their pencil a whole lot. So it's a good practice every now and then. It can be disruptive, especially like the audit. We're switching audit partners all the time. It's just a lot of work for staff.
Care about service bids or procurement bids or all kinds of bids?
Mostly serving, I mean, the recurring stuff. So
Professional service.
yeah. So the audit and the insurance are two good examples. We have a few other things like the landscaping. Other stuff that we.
Problem, sometimes the cheapest isn't the one you want.
Well, that's true too.
You don't have some background
Yeah.
on who you're dealing with, the cheapest bidder might in fact be the one you don't want.
Exactly. And we can always use some judgment in these two.
How long have you been with Moss Adams?
Since the 2013 audit,
Yeah.
and prior to that, we had been with the same auditor for our entire lives, to give you a little perspective.
And there was a big, some big findings when we transitioned, so I think it was good, but like I said.
It was good.
It does cause a lot of work for staff sometimes.
And I guess, again, I'm not opposed to the idea of doing that. It really, it was painful, and I knew it would be painful to go through, but all of the resulting changes were really, really positive. And it has kind of been on my mind, and I might have a different opinion if the state fertility, I just am curious to see what's gonna happen with that. But really not opposed to either way.
So this is one of those things you don't know what you don't know.
A little bit, yeah, and that's why most.
Just because they say we're doing a great job doesn't mean, we don't know that's
Yeah.
really true.
So the new purchasing policy gives us a little more flexibility for me to direct assign a lot of this stuff, so we're recognizing that, but at the same time, we don't wanna just have a gravy train where people are constantly getting re-upped because they're familiar, so. I would almost like to have a trigger of some type to come back and say, well, it's time for us to bid this out. We don't have to do it all the time, but every few years, I think it's a pretty healthy practice.
My sense is if you're gonna, maybe you do this already, but if the organization bids out a job for, say, auditing, we need to have a bullet point of this is what we're looking for in the person we choose. Maybe you do that anyway.
Yeah, it would be a full blown RFP
Yeah,
process where
yeah.
we get all that requirements.
Otherwise, we don't know.
I think it was Moss Adams when we implemented Z Open. Our old auditor just didn't like it, or
No,
they
that
had a
was-
problem,
We had that prior to Moss Adams.
but they said we could do both. Moss Adams looked at it and said, well, I don't know why you guys aren't doing.
Yeah, every auditor's got their own.
It's helped us.
Yeah, I think a lot of the stuff they found was very helpful.
Mhm.
It gives you a baseline, and now we've made a lot of corrections, so they can kind of stay with that. Have more confidence in what we're doing.
Maybe in the near future, when we have more time to discuss this, we ought to all think about it, talking another
Okay.
month or something.
We can start to put a list together of the things that would be most common that we.
What, where you think it might be and the
Yeah.
reasons you think that might be the case, that might be a good idea. And come
Figure
back
out-
and look at it in October or something.
Okay, yeah, we can figure out where that should live.
Not sure, I need to think about this a little bit.
Okay. It's kind of just, we'll do this as much as we can anyway, but it's what level of input does the board want over this sort of thing? Is sort of the question.
Fair enough. I guess I think it should be, I guess, in the purchasing policy.
Mhm.
The board policy should
Yeah.
just say that we're being informed.
Right,
I mean,
right.
I don't, why repeat everything?
And that's sort of the emphasis here, yeah. is
Yeah,
get-
it's
get
the
that
reason
out
for the
there.
policy change stuff, because they're kind of conflicting.
Yeah, yeah, and that happens sometimes. We'll get two policies that are at war with each other, so this will correct that, but I also don't want it to look like, well, we're not gonna bid.
We're just
anything
not gonna do
anymore.
anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a lot of things we talk about, we all are pretty cohesive in this room, and I personally don't have any distrust of anybody working here, I don't think anybody else does either, but that may not be the case in the
Yeah.
future.
Yeah,
We need to think about, what if we didn't have board cohesion, or what if we didn't trust the GM or
our staff, yeah.
financial officer or whatever, hopefully we'll never live to see that, but you have to plan for those worst kind of
Yeah.
cases.
Okay. We'll start to put a list together, we can bring it back, and if the purchasing policy could be a spot, maybe we have an appendix or something that just has an idea of, here's what we'll bid out, how often. That'll give you also visibility into the whole thing too. do think Sarah's point about waiting at least one more year on the audits, a good one, just so we can see how this new firm does with us. And
I think that's logical.
I think we can live it maybe.
Maybe that'll almost be the equivalent of a new operation too.
That's true, new eyes there, yeah, new technology.
They might come up with some stuff and say, we got bid.
We currently are at the end of our contract with Moss Adams, so we don't have our audit scheduled for next year, which makes me a little unsettled because we want to have the time, you know, that we want to have it
Right.
done. So that's the only kind of time.
As long as they be doing some outreach, then it's clearly understanding that a lot of the customers are gonna have questions.
Yeah,
The merger piece of things. I have spoken with our audit partner, Keith Simovic, the one that usually comes in and presents to you. He actually reached out to me to let me know that this was happening, so he'll still be in his role with us on the audit next year, assuming we move forward with the new engagement.
A little more alarming if they fire all the guys we know.
that's not a good sign.
Do they provide a quote every year for what that audit is gonna be for that year?
That's in the contract, and so since our contract is expiring, we need to determine what we're gonna do to move this process forward.
So this is a chance to go back to them at least and get a quote.
Yeah,
So we'll do
absolutely.
that. See how they treat that this go
I
around.
would emphasize to them with their familiarity, then the price shouldn't go up much, because they should be way more efficient than they were 3 years ago.
That's usually the goal, yeah.
Just an addendum to the existing contract. You're
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then go.
I think that's probably,
Yeah, just adding here.
yeah, that sounds good.
That does sound good. Awesome.
All right, we'll bring back the new policy language in September, 2 weeks from now.
Sure, the new firm has term payments to make, so they're gonna. You know.
I'm sure they will.
No one knows all the clients, they buy it. Exactly. We're now.
Hopefully, we don't end up with the audit schedule.
I just had some recent experience.
We just got our audit back.
September.
I feel ya.
So I heard that,
Acceptable.
I heard that, that's
Well,
crazy.
it went from 6,200 to 8,000,
And they jacked the price up, yeah.
but they didn't, ooh,
And I still
Sounds like
can't
buying,
provide it.
sounds like buying a line truck.
they, I just told forget it, so they
Captive.
backed off. So, yeah, I know Moss Adams used to be the company I worked, Moss Adams, we were required to do an internal audit.
Mhm.
We weren't public, but
Sometimes if you have debt or whatever. Like,
yeah, one company required. Yeah, they used to, it's where all the new accounting graduates got to practice
Exactly.
adding up computer spreadsheets by hand.
Yeah.
See if they matched.
Talk about an AI job is coming.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're
All
done.
right, yeah, thank you, Sarah.
Thanks, Sarah.
That's it?
We're gonna, I guess, adjourn
Adjourn.
to a systems tour.
That's right. Came in here. Thank you.